Hello, in this video we will understand about the cannabinoid effect and signaling pathway. So how the cannabinoid can interact to the cell and how it can be changed the physiology. And remember, the endocannabinoid system is already present in our body, but we will understand about the phytocannabinoid, which is present in the cannabis sativum, in the weed. During the smoking, it will be enter a lot of 100 types of compound, which that will change the physiology, like delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinoid, which that will lead to hypophagia, insulin sensitivity increase, fasting glucose, serum decrease, and weight loss will be increased. The CBN is another chemical which that will lead to hyperphagia. So remember, the CBG is lead to appetite stimulation, and the CBC is unknown, but the THCV, tetrahydrocannabinoid valine, is basically a delta 9, which that will lead to THCV delta 9 is hypophagia increase, lead to insulin sensitivity increase, lipid accumulation, fasting glucose in serum, and weight gain decrease, but fat loss will occur. Anyhow, the basically brain effect, nervous system, the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system affected by the different things. The effect on brain, let's begin to understand. Effect in the brain is psychoactive. In this way, the psychological aspect will be changed, euphoria will occur, enhancement of sensory perception. So the psychoactive, euphoria, enhancement of sensory perception, tachycardia will occur due to the increase of the heartbeat, while the constriction of the blood vessel is a possibility. Anti nociception, so the pain inhibitor, the pain reliever, and on the other hand, the difficulties in concentration and impairment of memory and the cognitive deficiency seem to persist after withdrawal. Anyhow, let's begin to understand the synapse. Here is the synapse between two neurons. The presynaptic neuron will transmit the signal to the postsynaptic neuron. In this way, the cognition can be possible in the brain as well as in the periphery of the body. This is the CB1 receptor, which that will bind the exogenous cannabinoids such as THC during the inhalation, during the smoking time, the weed taking, the weed smoking. In this way, the neurotransmitter, for example, serotonin, dopamine, and acetylcholine, this all will be inhibited by this binding with the THC with the CB1 receptor as well as CB2 receptor, also involved for the inhibition of the neurotransmitter exocytosis. Anyhow, the sodium channel will be closed, and in this way the sodium will not influx, the potassium will not outflux. In this way, the postsynaptic neuron, receiving neuron, will lead to no nerve impulse and dysfunction of cognition. Inside of the postsynaptic neuron, the lipid precursors, which that is the endogenous compound, will lead to an anandamide and anandamide AG2, which also though two compound is naturally occurring in the endocannabinoid system, will release and bind with the receptor to change the physiology. But remember, sometime bind the exogenous THC and sometime bind this anandamide and AG2, and in this way the physiology will be changed again and again. So this all chemical will lead to liver regulation like lipolysis as glycogenesis, and on the other hand the fatty liver prevention in the brain and neuron, the neuroplasticity will occur, neuroglial cell will be function more efficiently, and brain, a neuron, neuroplasticity, neuroglial cell, and immune cell inflammation will be decreased. The immune cell will be decreased. The activation and the GIT and adipose tissue will work to insulin sensitivity and pancreas. So, for example, here is the anandamide or THC, for example, bind with the CB2 receptor. Let's understand about the bigger picture for the signaling pathway. This is the plasma membrane, and inside the nucleus and out is the extracellular matrix and intracellular. So this is the CB2 receptor and this is the calcium channel, and this is the inwardly rectifying potassium channel, which that inside when potassium will be more, for example, to understand, and in this way the outflux of the potassium will occur whenever the CB2 receptor will receive the ligand as an anandamide or THC, the exogenous or endogenous, and in this way the cannabinoid, for example, during the weed smoking, will lead to G coupled protein receptor activation, lead to G1 and 0 GO will lead to activation, and in this way the GTP conversion and the ATP to ADP cycle will occur into the mitochondria, go again production of ATP. Anyhow, this is the adenylyl cyclase will activate to ATP used to produce cyclic AMP, and pyrophosphate will be released. In this way, here you can see G0 GO protein, which the activate will lead to calcium influx and potassium outflux. Inside of the calcium will increase the constriction. When the inside the calcium will increase, will lead to change the physiology. What that means? Let's be, for example, exocytosis as well as other things. And in this way, the cyclic AMP will increase the protein kinase A and will lead to trigger the A-type potassium channel to outflux of the potassium more, will lead to depolarization of the cell. On the other hand, the MAP kinase will trigger through PKA, protein kinase A, from the CB1 receptor. Remember, it is CB1 receptor required. So in this way, this G-coupled protein receptor will a cascade of phosphorylation will lead to activate the RAF, MEC1 and 2 and ERK1 and 2 protein, and AKT and PKB, the protein kinase B, and the AKT will trigger through this mechanism, and in this way will lead to SM, the SMACE enzyme will lead to produce the ceramide. The ceramide will a positive effect or negative the regulation of the RAF pathway. On the other hand, the CB2 receptor are involved for the ERK1 and 2 protein kinase A, AKT, and PKB protein kinase B, which that will collectively trigger the DNA in the nucleus. The nucleus contains chromosome in the form of DNA. The DNA will be triggered to as a transcriptional factor to transcribe, to translate the protein which that is required on the basis of the stimulus like cannabinoid chemicals like THC and others. Let's understand about what is the major function for the change of the physiology due to the taking of the marijuana containing cannabinoids, like insulin synthesis in beta cell, enzyme synthesis in gastrointestinal tract, inhibition of saliva, vesicle, and hormone in this way the dry mouth, and hormone sensitive lipase synthesis in adipose tissue. So the lipase will increase, will lead to adipolysis will occur, and adipogenesis will inhibit. On the other hand, the appetite stimulating ghrelin release in blood will lead to appetite stimulation, and the leptin will inhibit, and sometimes leptin can increase by the a reason wise on the basis of the chemical synthesis of proteins, hormones, and neurotransmitters, and increase of GLUT4 channels in the plasma membrane for insulin when bind to increase the influx of the insulin glucose will lead to decrease the glucose level and insulin receptor synthesis. immune cell proliferation inhibition, and in this way the inflammation will be decreased, anti-inflammatory as well as antioxidant and MAP kinase and protein 38 production and inhibition the cytokines will lead to all things is the physiological changes due to the cannabinoid effect. And this was the signaling pathway of the cannabinoid, the THC or N-anamide, the endogenous and exogenous compound will lead to change the physiology. And there is a lot of benefits of the weed. Remember, the weed, the basically the cannabis contain a lot of compound. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, please make sure to subscribe, like, and share.